Hey there. Thank you for joining me. It's Friday. We're going to have some fun. And uh, I kind of tried to record this a couple times before this. Um, but man, it kind of worked out because I love sports, love football, especially football is back. And the Chicago Bears. Oh my goodness. So much to talk about with the Bears. It's my favorite team. Long story how that happened. But um, man, I there's so much to say. Um, the Bears picked up Nick Foles to challenge Mitch Trubisky, and everyone that I've heard has kind of said maybe the Bears did that so that Trubisky might have a chance of even winning the quarterback battle, which he then did. And the Trubisky experience is continuing on in ways that were kind of to be expected, honestly. Um, there were games, even not counting last year. Last year was weird. It was rough. There were games where last year the Bears' play calling was really weird. I mean, they just weren't doing anything exciting. They weren't, trying different plays, trying different things out. And week one, that looked like what their play call was going to be again. It was very bland. It was, they weren't working with a script that really seemed to catch anyone off guard. And for three quarters, Trubisky just looked terrible. Fourth quarter, you saw why the Bears are hoping he'll work out because he was great. Week two was very much like 2 years ago where Trubisky really looked like he could be the guy. First half, the Bears were just doing great, everything right. Offense was working pretty well. Defense was just destroying the Giants. And then, like what happened sometimes 2 years ago, the Bears' offense just fell apart. And they had nothing in the second half. And this is part of the problem with Trubisky and something the Bears need to work out is how do you get a full game out of this team? And it's not just Trubisky. I have to say, you can spread the blame around to any or all of the Bears. You can point the finger at Matt Nagy, Bears play calling. What's going on with it because their offense is looking very questionable. Not really sure what's going on with a lot of the play calling. You can point the finger at obviously Trubisky or even Foles. Like, what on earth? How do you lose the quarterback battle to Trubisky if it was a fair one? Which is kind of up in the air. Point the finger at Chuck Pagano and the Bears defense. Like, they're just getting carved up at times. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't look like the typical Bears defense. Who knows? But they're going to face the Falcons, who cannot stop anyone and who are arguably a worse team than the Bears. So I could take a breath. And as terrible as the Bears have looked, and at times they have looked awful, the Bears are 2-0. The Lions and the Vikings, who also play in the Bears division, they are both 0-2. The Packers are 2-0. They look like they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC, so it doesn't give the Bears a ton of hope in that direction. But there's also an extra playoff team this year for both the AFC and the NFC. The Bears play in the NFC. If the Bears get 9 wins, 10 wins, is it unreasonable for the Bears to get one of those playoff spots? I don't know. Bears played the Lions once already, so only have the Lions one more time. Bears still have to play the Vikings twice. The Vikings have looked completely inept in every possible way. If the Bears win even one of those games, I don't know. As bad as things have looked for the Bears at times, and they've looked bad, I don't think it's all that bad. at the very least, I will have something to be interested in with football. The Bears may or may not be in contention. The Bears may or may not have a chance each game. But the Bears aren't terrible. There's definitely plenty for me to be interested in to see what's going to happen. So I don't know. In some ways, I'm just happy to be able to talk about the Bears and be able to watch them. In some ways, I wish I didn't have as much to talk about because that means there's not a lot going right. But yeah, that was NFL through 2 weeks. I am excited. I think with every team, first couple weeks, teams are still, they didn't really have camp. They didn't have preseason games. So they're kind of figuring themselves out right now. And I'm hoping you had one quarter right at the end where Trubisky was able to get something done. Last game, you had that first half. They scripted things out real well. Things went well. I'm hoping that means that against the Falcons, the Bears are going to be able to have that really well scripted first half offense, which they did 2 years ago. It failed on them a bit last year, although some of that could have been down to injury. So I'm really hoping to see that again, where they have a lot of really well scripted plays, wide receivers wide open, getting big yards on the run, just being very consistent throughout the offense in the first half. And in the second half, against the Falcons, issue the Bears are going to have is that the Falcons offense can really get going. So Bears defense has to step up, and hopefully we see something from the offense that they don't just disappear for a large part of the game. Start seeing a more consistent offense. That's the hope. Season's so early. There's a statistic that you are not guaranteed to not make the playoffs after you lose your first 2 games, but it is very unlikely that you make the playoffs losing your first 2 games. But there are 14 games left in the season. And if the Bears can beat the Falcons, Bears already have 3 of the wins that they need. And they might only need 6 more after that. So, all in all, I'm not too upset. I think the Bears are going to be a team that's in the mix. And I think they have potential, which makes it fun to watch them. So that's what I'm excited for on this Friday full of fun. So I hope you guys can have some fun. Hope you guys can pick up some of the football games. Some of the games have been really good. Hope you guys have some fun. Whether you watched the football game last night, I didn't get to watch it. Dolphins-Jaguars isn't the kind of game I'm super interested in anyway, but maybe their college game Saturday. There's going to be more football Sunday, Monday night. Hope you guys have some fun. Hope you can catch a little bit of football, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.